Hi, everybody. Just going to let everybody start coming into the webinar, and we're going to go ahead and get started in about a minute. It's going to take a few more, about another 30 seconds, let the rest of the attendees come in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Operation Parents webinar, Empowering Teens to Have Healthy Relationships, presented by Cassie Drockelman of the Mary Byron Project. My name is Mary Beth Uberti, and I'm the Operation Parents Director of Program Development, and we are really happy to have you join us today for this 30-minute webinar. Before we get into the content today, I am going to turn over the microphone to Michelle Massey, and she is going to go over the features of the GoToWebinar panel, which will just help you to fully participate in the session today. So just hold on for just a moment.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Mary Beth said, I'm Michelle Newton-Massey. I'm also on the program development team here at Operation Parent. I will say too, Mary Byron was in my high school class here in Louisville, Kentucky, and she was a significant loss to our class. And so there are about 100 of us that are behind the Mary Byron Project very strongly. Before we go into the content, I would like to go over a few of the features of GoToWebinar panel so you can fully participate in our session today. There's an orange grab tab. So first on your webinar control panel, you will see an orange grab tab with an arrow. This tab allows you to open and minimize the control panel. If you wish to view your screen without the control panel, just click on that orange tab and minimize it. For now, though, please click on the orange tab to open your control panel and view all of the features. We'll also utilize the question feature today. Now, don't worry, each attendee will be muted during the presentation, but we would, however, love to hear from you via the question section. About halfway down the control panel, you will see the question section. You will send both questions and comments here. You'll see 3 panels. The top panel will show you any questions you've already posted. Below that is another light blue panel where you can type your questions and then select send privately. Now let's try this now. Send me your name and where you're joining us from. Make sure you click on send message to staff so that I'll get it. Okay, awesome. I see Anne from Louisville. Monica from Arizona. Jean from Louisville. We've got someone from Philadelphia. Diana. Andrea from Ohio. Jennifer, Sarah, and Lisa from Louisville. Okay, awesome. We've got lots of folks still sounding off, but we can tell that the question feature is working perfectly today. So I want to encourage you to send us questions anytime during the webinar. All the questions will be answered by the end of the presentation, and we will also have a quick question and answer session at the end of the presentation. This may take us a bit over the 30-minute mark, but feel free to stay as long as you are able, and if you need to sign off at the end before we finish up the questions, we understand. We have some excellent handouts lined up for you today. Cassie's put together a really great list. Digital dating abuse, How do you know if your teen is in an unhealthy relationship is our second handout. Respectful relationships and conversation starters. The sex talk isn't enough, how parents can talk about healthy relationships, and then empowering teens to have healthy relationships. And those are our slides. So I want to have you make sure that you double click on all the handouts as well as today's presentation. The handouts will only be available while we are in session. Once the webinar has ended and the session is closed, you will not be able to download the handouts. So please take a minute and do this now. We are recording this presentation, and this recording will be sent to you tomorrow afternoon. You will also receive a second email, which will contain the handouts. There will be a short survey sent to you directly after the webinar. It will take about 2 minutes to complete. If you have the time, we would value the feedback. So now at this point, I am very excited to turn it over to Cassie Drockelman, who has just some excellent information for you today.
Great. Thank you all so much for having me, and thanks to all of you all who are here on the webinar today. Like has been mentioned already, we're going to be talking about how to empower your kids to have healthy relationships. Just a little bit about me. I've spent about a decade supporting victims of intimate partner violence. I started advocating for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault when I was in college as a volunteer. And then since then, I have made it my career. So I've worked for the Texas Council on Family Violence, the National Dating Abuse Helpline, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and Family Tree, which is a community domestic violence agency in Denver. And I now work for the Mary Byron Project here in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'll start off by telling you a little bit about the Mary Byron Project, who we are, what we do. Michelle mentioned Mary Byron earlier, and she is the woman who our organization is named after. She was killed in 1993. She was a graduate of Assumption High School in Louisville, Kentucky, and she had been raped, assaulted, and stalked by her former boyfriend. He was arrested and jailed for these crimes, but someone posted his bail and he was released without Mary knowing. So on her 21st birthday, Mary's former boyfriend came to her workplace and shot and killed her as she got in her car to leave work. So as you can imagine, her family and the community were stunned and heartbroken, and county officials here in Louisville saw a dire need and began working on a system that would let crime victims know whether their offenders were still in jail, where they were held, and when they were released. And exactly 1 year after Mary's murder, Jefferson County, Kentucky instituted this technology, which is called VINE. It's the National Victim Notification Network. And it's now used in thousands of communities across the nation and has saved countless lives and helps many, many people feel safer knowing that the person who has harmed them, they can keep track of where they are. So John Byron, Mary's father, said that if only they'd had this one when Mary was around, Mary would still be alive, right? They really feel like if they had known that her ex-boyfriend was released, they would have gotten her out of town and done whatever they could have done to keep her safe. So that's our mission here at the Mary Byron Project, is to cultivate and support innovative solutions like VINE that are working to address the root causes of this epidemic and help build safer, healthier communities. Because unfortunately, we know that what happened to Mary is not a problem of the past. So just kind of really briefly, a few of our projects. We have our Celebrating Solutions Award, and that's where we recognize 5 programs across the country each year that are doing innovative work to end intimate partner violence. We give them funds to grow their program. We spread awareness of their efforts so that other agencies can implement them and create similar positive change in their communities without reinventing the wheel. We're also committed to educating businesses about workplace violence through what we call our Work Safe initiative. And this program provides training and policy development to businesses to help business leaders become proactive about protecting their employees. If you'd like to learn more about us and our work, or if you'd like to make a donation, as we are a nonprofit organization, please visit our website. It's just marybyronproject.org. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our topic today. We're going to be talking about what makes a teen relationship healthy. We're going to talk about how we can help our kids develop healthy relationships. And then I want to wrap up by talking a little bit about the red flags of abuse, things that we can be looking out for. And knowing that we have a short amount of time here together today. This is a 30-minute webinar, and this is a topic that I could talk about for hours. So I'm going to be just kind of giving a general overview of a lot of things. So if you leave here today wanting to know more, I want to make sure that you have lots of resources. The handouts that Michelle mentioned are some of those resources. I'll also tell you about some websites and things like that so that you can look more into this if you leave today wanting to know more. So what I'm hoping will be accomplished by the end of the day is that we will identify the basic tenets of a healthy relationship. We'll explore ways that we can empower our kids to have healthy relationships. Again, recognize those signs of unhealthy relationships, and I've identified some tools and resources for further guidance. So let's get started. What I've been told time and time and again while working in this field is that education is prevention. And according to the CDC, relationships that occur in the teen years may affect dating relationships later in life, right? So the lessons that teens learn today about their relationships may carry over into those future relationships. Therefore, it's really important that teens recognize and understand what constitutes a healthy relationship. And early prevention efforts and those effective interventions are the best way to protect youth and prevent adult domestic violence. And unfortunately, many teens are not getting this information in schools. And unfortunately, they're often getting negative or unhelpful messages from the media. So you as parents are in a position to be able to talk to your child about what is and isn't healthy right at the time when they are just learning about dating. Research shows us that positive parent-child communication predicts positive, healthy relationship outcomes among youth. So you can help them establish healthy ways of thinking about relationships and learn to recognize red flags before they find themselves in an abusive situation. Because we know that teen dating violence is just as prevalent, if not more, than adult abusive relationships. And my goal today is not to scare you, so I'm not going to go on and on with statistics and prevalence rates, but I want you to know that this issue is affecting a lot, and by a lot, I mean 1 in 3 young people. And unfortunately, dating abuse is a precursor to other risky behaviors such as substance abuse and risky sexual behaviors. So I want to commend you all for taking the time to be here today and learn about this issue, because I know it's not a pleasant topic and I know it can bring up a lot of worry for parents, but by joining us today, you will learn some things that you can do to hopefully help your child avoid an abusive relationship, which can in turn protect them from other dangers as well. So today I'm really going to focus on promoting healthy relationships because, like I've mentioned, I believe an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of intervention. That being said, we are going to talk, like I said at the end, a little bit about the red flags for an abusive relationship, and there is a follow-up webinar to this webinar today. For those of you who want to learn more about abusive relationships, if you think, as we're talking through things today, if you think your child is in an unhealthy relationship, I definitely want you to have the tools to know how to respond and help with that. So know that today, while we're going to be focusing a lot on healthy relationships, there is that follow-up webinar next week on what to do if you think your child is in an unhealthy relationship. So I want to mention that now right up front. So this is the Teen Dating Bill of Rights, which I've adapted from a website called dosomething.org that has a lot of really great resources for teens and young adults. And I think it can be really powerful to show this list to a teenager and let them know that these are all things they deserve in a relationship and things that their partner deserves too, right? So if it doesn't feel natural to show this list to your child, you can just use these ideas to inform your conversations with them. Again, it's really about, like I said, they're getting a lot of kind of negative messages from media. They may be getting incorrect information from their friends and peers. And so just letting them know that they have the right to be treated with respect and to be treated as an equal and to not be hurt physically or emotionally, you know, to feel safe in their relationships at all times, to refuse sex or affection at any time. They have the right to have friends and activities apart from their girlfriend or boyfriend, and that they have a right to end a relationship when it's not right for them. A lot of young people don't know that they have these rights, and so that can be really helpful to point those things out. One of the main things that you can do when we talk about what you can do as a parent to help your child is just talk about relationships. I think many parents think that their kids don't want to talk about these things or that they don't want to hear it from their parents. But there was a report done by the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and 70% of the 18 to 25-year-olds who responded said that they wanted more information from parents about some emotional aspect of a relationship when they were a teen. So 70%, that's a huge number of teens and young adults who are saying, yeah, when I was first starting to date, I wish my parents had talked to me about these things. And by starting a conversation about healthy dating with your children now, they get crucial information, and they also are more likely to feel comfortable coming to you in the future when they do need to talk. So even if they're not even dating yet, it just kind of sets up that foundation of, this is something that we can talk about. This is normal. This is something that I'm here for you about. But I know it's not always easy to know how to start these kinds of conversations, right? So one way to do it is just to ask lots of questions. Ask questions to learn what your teen already knows or thinks about relationships. So just asking, are any of your friends dating? What kind of person would you like to date? Things like that. Just kind of opening up the conversation casually with questions versus like going straight into a lecture or, this is what you need to know about relationships kind of thing. And then during those conversations, as things come up organically from some of these questions, it's really important to share the elements of healthy relationships. So, letting them know that they have the freedom to be themselves. They should be comfortable expressing who they are. This means spending time with people that they like, dressing in ways they want to, doing activities that make them happy, letting them know that they shouldn't have to change who they are or compromise their beliefs to make someone like them. Support is really crucial in a healthy relationship. Partners offer a listening ear and encourage their significant other's ideas and aspirations. In bad times, a partner should be someone that you can turn to for comfort. Mutual respect is really important, that both people in the partnership should speak to each other respectfully. Partners should avoid put downs, even in the heat of a disagreement. Communication, things like trust and honesty are key foundations to a healthy relationship. So both partners should be able to talk about feelings openly without fearing negative consequences. Partners should be able to discuss serious matters safely, face-to-face, and find the right time to do so. And talking about that compromise is often a part of a healthy relationship, but not compromising to the point where you're, not having your boundaries respected and things like that. Which leads us right into boundaries. Setting boundaries is a hugely important part of any relationship. A couple should be able to talk about what they're comfortable with, how often they'll see each other, how far they want to go physically, etc. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about boundaries here in a minute. Limited jealousy is important. We're going to talk a little bit about jealousy as well. But I think a lot of times, jealousy is seen as something in the media as something that's romantic or caring. And the reality is and what we can talk to our kids about is that it's really normal for us all to have feelings of jealousy from time to time. But it's not okay for your partner to take out their jealous feelings on you and use it to control you or control what you do or who you see or things like that. That's jealousy is something that we have to work through personally. And trust is a huge part of a healthy relationship, a hugely important part. Privacy is important as well. We're going to talk a little bit about sharing passwords to social media and phones and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then lastly, it's really important to enjoy being together, right? I think sometimes relationships progress in a way to where people get to the point where they're just kind of always arguing and they're not enjoying their time together. And that is a point when it's okay to say, you know what, I don't think this relationship works for me and break up. I think that's one that sounds really, really obvious, but sometimes once you're, in the weeds of a relationship, especially for young folks, it can be hard to kind of realize, hey, I don't actually think we enjoy being together anymore. And then please feel free to refer to the handouts that I gave to you. They give a lot more detailed information on starting these conversations, having these conversations, things to talk about, questions to ask. A lot more details are in those handouts. I think another way to have this conversation is just to talk about the things that you see on TV, songs that you hear on the radio when you're riding in the car together. Just have things kind of come up organically based on what you are doing and seeing when you're with your child. So, it's important to be open and honest with teens and give them a space to express their own feelings and concerns. You don't want this to turn into a lecture. You just want to get them talking and thinking about things. So, for example, the song Jealous by Nick Jonas is one that many of you have probably heard if you have teens and young adults in your lives. And I think, again, like I was talking about, these kind of jealousy and trust issues are so often normalized as signs of how much a person cares about the person they're with. And I think that teens in their first relationships can have an especially hard time deciphering the line between caring and controlling, especially when the examples they see are things like this song and the music video that goes with it. So the lyrics really normalize jealous behaviors. And while there's no talk of physical violence in the lyrics, there are several shots in the music video of Nick being violent and aggressive by breaking things and hitting punching bags. And while his violence is not directed at a person in the video, it's still a sign that he's choosing to use violence to express his feelings, which is a warning sign for physical abuse. So if this video came on, for example, while you were watching TV together, you could just ask them what they think about it. You could talk about how you think Nick's behavior is unhealthy and that it's not his right to be hellish. When you look at these lyrics, he's basically saying, I have a right to make a big deal about this because you're so beautiful, and that's why I get jealous. And while everyone may feel a bit jealous at sometimes, like I said, distrust and excessive jealousy are very unhealthy in a relationship. And while getting jealous may seem like a sign of how much your partner cares, in a healthy relationship, you should feel cared for while also feeling trusted and free to act and dress as you please. So, that's just a conversation that you can have together after you see a music video or hear a song. So I mentioned setting boundaries and the importance of setting boundaries when it comes to a healthy relationship. I think that is one thing that we can talk to teens and young adults about, because I don't think setting boundaries is kind of a natural or instinctual thing for some of us. I think for a lot of us, even as adults, setting boundaries with people in our lives can be really, really difficult. And so it's important that we model setting boundaries, but also have conversations with our teens about that. So, first, just making sure they know what boundaries are, that they have a right to say what's okay and what's not okay with them in their relationship. And then some messages that you can convey is that, there's a lot of gray areas with black and white, or with these issues. I apologize. There's a lot of gray area with these issues. They're not black and white. So you get to decide what feels healthy to you and what doesn't. It's really about communicating what you want, right? And if anything feels controlling, trusting their gut, because there's a good chance that it's unhealthy. Letting them know that it's great if going into a relationship, they know what their boundaries are and they're able to communicate that from the start. But even if they don't do that right from the start, boundaries can be set at any time, right? And sometimes you just don't really know what your boundaries are about something until something comes up and happens, and then you go, oh, actually, I wasn't okay with that. So just letting them know they can be done at any time. It's not a deal where if they didn't say something at the very beginning, they can't say something now, which I think is kind of a common misconception sometimes. There's a certain amount of negotiating and compromising that goes into relationships, figuring out something that works for both of you. We all come from different backgrounds and different families and different cultures and things that make it impossible for us always to be on the same page about everything. But letting your teen know that if someone is asking them to do something that just really doesn't feel right, or they're trying to control them in some way, that's when they get to say that this isn't healthy for them. Talk to them about listening to their gut. That's really important here. If something doesn't feel right, there's a good chance that it isn't. Letting them know that boundaries can change. So again, just because you felt comfortable with something at the beginning of a relationship doesn't mean you have to stick with that for forever. You can communicate if things change, because the reverse is true too, right? There might be something that you're not okay with at the beginning of a relationship, but with time and trust, it becomes comfortable to you. So letting them know that those agreements can change. And then lastly, I think the most important piece about setting boundaries is being able to communicate those, right? You can have all the ideas about boundaries in your head as you want, but if you never communicate those to your partner, then they have no way of knowing, right? And this can be difficult, like I said, for folks of all ages. So we can empower our kids to have these conversations. We can normalize these conversations by having them with them. If they want to practice having those conversations with us or with a friend, that can be really helpful. That communication piece is hugely important and also hugely difficult for some of us. So. And then I think I could go on and on and on about technology and digital abuse and digital boundaries. All of us with young people in our lives know just how important cell phones and computers and social media and all of that is when it comes to teen relationships, both friend relationships and romantic relationships. So just briefly, I think it's important to have conversations about digital boundaries as well. So these are some helpful questions that can get young folks thinking about what their boundaries are when it comes to technology, because again, I think technology is so ingrained in their lives that sometimes they might not really even know what they're okay with and not okay with. And then it can be easy for them to just kind of go with whatever their partner sets as what's right and wrong. So these are some ways that you can help them think about what their boundaries are so that they can know for themselves going into a relationship. So, just asking if it's okay to tag and check each other in on social media. Do we post our relationship status online? Is it okay for my boyfriend or girlfriend to friend or follow my friends on different social media? When is it okay to text, and what's the expectation for when we reply? So is there like a time of the day where we say, okay, we don't text after this time, or things like that? Is it okay to post, tweet, or post photos about our relationship? Is it okay to use each other's devices, phones, tablets, things like that? Just asking these questions and getting them thinking about what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. This little picture over here in the right-hand corner, that'snotcool.com, is a really great website that has a lot of great information. It's for teens and young adults. So it has like videos and cartoons and things like that. And there's great information for your child to see. There's also really good information for you as well if you're wanting more information specifically around digital safety. And I'll also have some more resources around digital safety at the end, because I know that's a huge one for all of us as parents. And then I mentioned that we talk a little bit more about privacy and password. According to a Pew study, 1 in 3 teens has shared a password. So that's huge. And the password sharing thing seems to be a big deal. What I'm hearing from teens is that sharing passwords for some is an expected part of a relationship. So I hear things like, she says that if I trust her, I'll give her my password. Or on the flip side, I don't have anything to hide, so sharing my password doesn't really feel like a big deal. Passwords kind of seem to be like the new class ring. You just exchange them as part of entering a relationship. And there just doesn't seem to be as much concern about privacy when it comes to teens and young adults. So part of the message that you can give your child is that even if you don't have anything to hide, you still have the right to your privacy. Your password is like a lock, right? And even if they still are kind of like, well, I just don't really see the big deal, we can ask them, what happens if you break up? So I think all of us have seen, either in our own lives or in other people's lives, sometimes people who seem really great, when they get broken up with, they do some things that we have never seen that side of them before, right? So what we see a lot with teen relationships is if one person gets broken up with and they have access to their partner's or their ex-partner's social media through their password, they can do some kind of hurtful things with that information. So just kind of bringing that up to teens, what happens if you break up and they've got your password? If it's a case where your child has already shared their password with their partner, just get them thinking about, if you're thinking about breaking up with this person at any point, go change your password before you do that, right? Do some safety planning around that if that password has already been shared. Okay, so I mentioned I want to briefly talk about just some red flags, some things to look out for if your child is dating or is dating in the future. These are some ways that you might know that they are in an unhealthy relationship. So, it's going to be if their partner is trying to isolate them from friends or family, physically hurting them in any way, constant put downs or name calling, that extreme jealousy like we were talking about, not letting them talk to other guys or girls, dictating what they wear, what they do, who they follow on social media, things they like on social media, just any of that kind of extreme jealous behavior. Any kind of controlling behavior, setting rules. An explosive temper is a red flag. Blaming and making false accusations. So what that looks like is maybe anything that goes wrong in the relationship, they're blaming their partner for it. Maybe even they're blaming their partner for the hurt that they're causing. The false accusations in abusive relationships and unhealthy relationships, there's a lot of accusations of cheating, and a lot of behavior is justified because they're accusing the person of cheating. Mood swings are going to be a red flag. Possessiveness, telling their partner what to do, what to wear, how to act, constantly checking up on their partner, having to know where they are, who they're with, things like that. Again, I could go into so much detail about this, but since we don't have a ton of time today, I want to let you all know about a really great resource called loveisrespect.org. This website is for teens and young adults. It also has a lot of really great information for parents about healthy relationships, abusive relationships. So that list that I just blew through of what does unhealthy relationships or dating abuse look like, there's tons more information about that on loveisrespect.org. So if there were some things that popped on that list that were concerning to you, please check out this website. They also have online chat. You can call or you can text with an advocate. And this is for parents or teens. So it's all young people on the lines that have received a lot of training in this issue. I used to work for Love is Respect. It's an awesome organization. So teens can feel comfortable chatting or texting with them, but you can also call or text or chat with an advocate and just say, look, these are the things I'm noticing. I'm worried. What can I do? And they have tons of really great information just on the website, quizzes, resources, things you can print out, read through. Really great resource. So if you feel, even if you just feel like you're struggling to talk to your teens about these issues, there are lots of resources out there to help you start that constructive conversation. Like I said, the packets that we've included, this website, Love is Respect, is really great. Or if you're looking at some of these resources and still just struggling, or your talks about relationships aren't going well, consider finding a family therapist who can maybe help mediate the conversation. Because teaching your kids what it means to be in a healthy relationship is just too important of a message to leave it to chance, or to just hope that it comes up someday. So I hope some of this information has been helpful to you all. Again, if any of you are feeling a little concerned after this, or have had things come up that you want to learn more about, please feel free to check out the follow-up webinar next week that focuses more on dating abuse and what you can do to help support your child if they are experiencing abuse.
All right. Well, Cassie, thank you so much. Just wanted to go over a few things, and then we'll open it up for additional questions, and Cassie's going to stay on the line with us. To continue to just stay informed and connect with Operation Parent, we just encourage you to like us on Facebook at Operation Parent on Facebook. Sign up for our e-newsletter if you're not receiving that. That comes out once a month. It's focused on one particular topic. And then purchase our parent handbook. We'll talk more about that. Here are the details for the next few webinars. The next one that Cassie was talking about is dating abuse, what every parent needs to know. And in this one, this is a 45-minute webinar. Cassie will go into more detail about dating abuse, what you need to know, what are the signs, where do you go for help. And that is next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Again, you can just sign up online at operationparent.org. And then in May, we are going to have Arlene Rice on to talk about shedding light on opioids. She is an author of Parent of an Adult Addict, and she also is the founder of the Gabriel Project. She's a wonderful speaker also, and I just encourage you, if you want to learn about heroin and the other opioids warning signs, to please sign on for that one. These are our parent handbooks. You can purchase them online or call our office if you're looking for bulk order shipments. And with that, I would just like to turn this back. I'm just going to stop here and see if there's any questions in the queue. And I don't see any. So if you do have a question, I just encourage you to go ahead and put it in. But as of now, I don't see any questions in the queue. I'll just go through the last of the slides. We do community presentations. So I do encourage you, if you are a counselor or working with the school district, we do come out to do community presentations. You can just contact me at marybeth@operationparent.org, or just go ahead and contact info@operationparent.org to find out more about that. This is our website and our phone number, and I'll take one last look. Any questions before we close it up? Okay, well, Cassie, I really appreciate your time and your help. Just a reminder, please, everyone, tomorrow the recording will come to you in an email, in a separate email. If you have not downloaded the handouts, they will come to you in a second email. They'll be separate from one another. And for those of you that are listening to this recording and not attending the live one, you cannot download the handouts through a recording. You will have to do the handouts through the second email that'll come to you tomorrow with all the handouts. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. And Cassie, thank you. And we look forward to next week's webinar on dating abuse.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.